disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Been a fantastic day so far. So Woody Harrelson, knocked out of the park, folks. Once again, Woody Harrelson. Everybody knows his name because they're always glad he came. That is the theme song to Cheers. Which, full disclosure, I know I'm gonna get some hate mail from this. Full disclosure, not really a fan of the show. I've seen few scenes here and there, you know. When it's on TV, like someone throws it on, I'll maybe watch for like a couple minutes, but I found it so dry. I found it so just, comedy is subjective, and people, find humor in different ways. I didn't find it that amusing. I just didn't find it at all very amusing. So that's just my take of it. But Woody Harrelson, though, I love the moments that he gets to really express his true self and provides us context that we don't ever get to hear by mainstream media, including this, ladies and gentlemen. He was at a, looks like a film festival or some sort of event where he's promoting his next project, and this came about.
Who just thinks it's abominable when a superpower with all this military might, with no provocation, attacks just unprovoked, attacks a country that is, Iraq, I'm sorry, Korea, no, sorry, Ukraine. Terrible. Yeah, I lost my way there.
He does it in a comedic fashion, which I think is perfect as well. I think that's playing on behalf of, I think it was George W. Bush that went to some college campus and tried to convince the students there of why it's so important to, lucrative send all of our money off to Ukraine to advance warfare over there, because, terrible it is that a larger country invades a smaller country, and it's just absolutely devastating, just like what happened in Iraq. Afghanistan. No, Syria. No. Ukraine. That's the word I'm looking for. I think it's trying to play off that, but Woody Harrelson knocks it out of the park with that one. And it's interesting that, like, even the other actors are, like, cluing in. It's like, oh, that's funny. That's funny because it's true. It's funny because it's true. It's actually happening. It's actually one of the big 20 years mystery and lies that we've been told for the last 2 decades that people seem to forget all the time. They forget that we've been lied to in the war machine for so many decades that why you think now all of a sudden we're telling the truth that we're, stopping Vladimir Putin or, helping out the people of Israel, when we know for a fact that the military-industrial complex is lying to us purposely to get us into these wars. They need to lie to us. They need to manufacture this terror, because in order to have a war on terror, you have to cultivate the terror. So that is amazing that Woody Harrelson, out of all people, Woody Harrelson it seems to be the only person that is able to just openly express that. And you may recall the last time he got to express himself truly, he was deemed this kind of racist bigot and chauvinistic persona, and he was not really accepted in polite society of Hollywood. I wonder why that is. I wonder why, particularly on SNL, out of all places, he got kind of banned from polite Hollywood society, and I wonder why that is.
Okay, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes, and people can only come out if they take the cartel's drugs and keep taking them over and over. I threw the script away. I mean, who is going to believe that crazy idea? Okay, so the movie goes like
Who's gonna believe that idea? That's hilarious. That's still hilarious to this day that he was able to say that on SNL and people like freaked out like, oh, he's such a random conspiracy nut. How dare he say something like that? It's almost like he said something that was truthful. It's almost like that movie script idea that could never possibly be filmed or produced was actually a version of reality that we're living right now. You know, how we were lied to, how we were told to lock down, mandated, the big pharmaceutical giants extraordinarily took over governments, took over and dictated the mandates and suppressed people and censored people and put their authoritarian figures on foot and manufactured this complete pandemic to the point that they constructed new billionaires every second while the rest of the country was starving and struggling to get by. Like, no one's going to believe that story. Woody Harrelson, of all people, it's absolutely interesting. And this is coming on the heels, too, that I should bring this to attention. Now that we're mentioning about the pandemic and COVID and Woody Harrelson and all this stuff. Finally, folks, we have confirmation, even though we know for a long time now, we know this for like 3 years now. Finally, they came out of the bushes, they came out of the dark to realize that, hey, people are going to find out that taxpayer money was funding gain-of-function research this whole time. That Tony Fauci science can't hide in the shadows no longer. And continue to lie to us, psychotically lie to us, pathologically lie to us, saying that, oh, it's impossible that, you know, we have these laboratories that the United States and other countries have been funding to advance research in developing these new diseases. And then, you know, surprisingly, they get leaked out or something happens, and then we invent a cure. Has never happened before. You've obviously never heard of Pfizer's business model. So this is from all sides. NIH official finally admits taxpayer-funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan after years of denials. After years of trying to hide and suppress this. And you know how we know that this whole time we were actually on the right side of things? Because in Vanity Fair, you may recall, in 2021, 3 years ago, they announced that in a major shift, the NIH admits that there was risky virus research in Wuhan. And that was when people were discussing and cultivating and maybe suggesting that there's a possibility that this came from a laboratory, that we actually created this disease, it got leaked out purposely, and now big cartels are now supplying us with the medicine to treat the disease that they created. It seems like the ultimate global scam, ladies and gentlemen, and he was part of it. He was part of it for so long. And now, finally, in 2024, May 16th, they finally came out of the darkness. They finally had to come clean. And the sad part about this, the ultimate sad part about this is now, even after releasing this information, now after the fact that everything's on the table now, everybody knows that this is a criminal in the act, he's not going to be prosecuted. He's not going to get a slap on the wrist. He's not going to get punished for the heinous acts that he's done globally, not just nationally, but internationally. And he's going to get away with this. And it's just going to be wiped clean. Oh, sorry. That was my oopsie that I took your money to form deadly contagions that are going to spread wildly across the entire planet. But it's okay, because then we'll manufacture vaccines and drugs that are going to cure the manufactured illness that we created and profit off of all of it. No one's gonna believe that movie script. That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And it's kind of interesting that, you know, before COVID, before we knew about any of this, before the pandemic and people rushed into supporting the pharmaceutical giants, lining up for Pfizer, lining up for Moderna. I sadly was one of those people at first until I started looking into it and until I, start doing research. It's amazing that before all this, there were movies, there were documentaries, there were television series that depicted on the fact that people were getting abused by big pharmaceuticals. There was a whole miniseries that came out just before COVID called Dope Sick, starring Michael Keaton. And he played a doctor who was prescribing opioids to individuals, and it was exposing the whole scam that the big pharmaceutical giants posed onto doctors to sell them these addictive drugs. And now there's an opioid epidemic still continuing to this day. And it's amazing that that came out, and the Dallas Buyers Club, which I highly recommend people watching that. That's Matthew McConaughey. It exposed a lot of the AIDS epidemic. It's based on a true story. Amazing that that was able to expose a lot of things and people were calling out the big pharmaceuticals. And then all of a sudden, this came out. COVID, lockdowns, pandemic, paranoia, freak out, and everyone just did a complete 180. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating that how quickly things had turned just in a short instant. And people took their shields down, took their skepticism away. Now, if you're skeptical, you're considered a conspiracy nut. You're considered a traitor. You're considered a Trumper. You're a anti-vaxxer if you're skeptical. But the whole time we've been skeptical up till COVID. It is absolutely amazing. And the fact that, people like Woody Harrelson I had to speak out on this, and he got blasted for it. Shows what a criminal cabal really looks like. The cartels we should be worried about are the ones with the multi-billion-dollar industry that's pretending to cure us, even though they're curing us from the diseases that they're creating. It's an ultimate scam, but no one's going to believe that movie script. Yeah, because it's not a movie, it's reality, unfortunately. But luckily, we're calling this out. We're following the news. We're following the science. We're following the money and giving you the full context so that you're aware of this, so that you're aware of all the information. It's not there to demonize people. It's not there to, yell at people if you did get, the 2 COVID shots or 3 or 4. It's not there to go against you or get angry at you. It's to provide context so that people are aware of what's really going on behind closed doors so that you have a fuller perspective of things, and then you can make a better decision based on that. You're no longer contained by paranoia. You're now free to understand and be acknowledged of what's really going down, and then you'll have a full, clear perspective of better decision making. That's what it really comes down to. So, Woody Harrelson knocks it out of the park, and finally, Anthony Fauci comes out of the darkness, comes out clean, and sadly, he's not going to get punished. Bill Gates is not going to get punished. The NIH, none of these people are going to serve any jail time, any sentencing, any sort of punishment or justice is never going to get done. These are multi-billion-dollar, almost trillion-dollar industries that took over the planet, took over governments, took over the media, took over the news coverage, took over science, took over, medical hospitals, took over research facilities, took over schools and universities. If you read RFK Jr.'s book on Anthony Fauci, it is exactly what Woody Harrelson is saying on SNL. It's a cartel. It's a cartel that dominated over the earth. And they all got together, they all conspired with each other, and they forcibly took you into their agenda without any sort of criticism. And you weren't allowed to criticize. You weren't allowed to do your own research. You weren't allowed to be skeptical, which goes against every instance of science. Because the gut reaction of science is a method. It's not to be trusted. It's not just to be followed. You're supposed to question science. You're supposed to question the data. That's the whole purpose of the scientific method. You're supposed to create a hypothesis and then test that theory and then question that theory and try other methods. That's the whole purpose of it. So it is amazing. Let's just say it is absolutely amazing. An actor like Woody Harrelson is able to knock it out of the park again, not only with COVID, but also with basic U.S. imperialism around the world. And sadly, other actors just don't have the moxie, don't have the courage. I don't know what it is. If they're just complacent or fearful of their careers and jobs, I don't know. But you don't see a lot of that in Hollywood. This is brought to you by Ground News, the versatile news app and website that gathers all the world's media on one place and allows users to compare coverage. Ground News gives you the access of thousands of sources worldwide, allows you to see the media blind spots, and even gives analysis on the bias and factuality of those stories. Weave your way through the mainstream narratives, the corporate lies, and have total access to find complete information that you deserve. Click on the link below and get 15% off a subscription. Be critical, be informed, be ground.